What does it mean to starve a god? That's the question that haunts every story where Superman is pushed beyond his natural limits. We know bullets bounce off him. Lasers sear but cannot burn him. Explosions tear the earth apart, yet his body stands unbroken. But hunger is different, because hunger is not about what your body can withstand. It's about what it cannot get. Superman is not human. He is a Kryptonian, born under a red sun and raised under the nourishing power of Earth's yellow star. That sunlight doesn't just make him strong. It's his fuel, his life source. Every time he flies into the sky, every time he takes in a deep breath, he is soaking in radiation that feeds every cell in his body. Without it, he is not a god. Without it, he is just a man. But here's the mystery. If he were cut off from that sunlight, if he were trapped in endless darkness, no food, no light, would starvation claim him the way it does us? Or would his body fight back, clinging to every ounce of stored energy, resisting the inevitable for years, even decades? Some versions of the comics give us a chilling clue. When Superman is far from Earth's sun, his powers begin to fade slowly. His strength weakens, his body feels heavier, his invulnerability thins like glass ready to shatter. In time, his body begins to feel more human. And with humanity comes hunger. Yes, hunger. Imagine him trapped underground, no sunlight, no food, no escape. The man who once lifted mountains begins to feel his stomach twist in pain. His metabolism, designed to convert solar energy into godhood, starts to fail. His body cries out for more. But here's where the line between man and Kryptonian blurs. Unlike us, Superman's cells are vast batteries. They don't just burn through energy in hours or days. They can store sunlight for weeks, months, sometimes even longer. In certain stories, he survived without sunlight for incredible stretches of time, drawing on those reserves like a dying ember, keeping him alive in the coldest night. Yet every ember burns out. When that happens, would Superman collapse as any mortal man does, his body shutting down, heart slowing, mind fading? Or would something else happen? Would his Kryptonian cells, desperate to keep him alive, begin cannibalizing themselves, eating away at his power, his strength, his very essence? The idea of Superman starving is terrifying, not because of what it does to his body, but what it does to his mind. This is a man who always had enough strength to save anyone, anywhere. To feel weakness, to feel the ache of hunger gnawing at him, to feel powerless, is a form of suffering far greater than death. And that's where the danger lies. Not in the hunger itself, but in the despair it brings. Because if Superman, the beacon of hope, begins to believe he cannot survive, then the world loses more than its protector. It loses its symbol. And that raises the question, can Superman endure not just the physical hunger, but the psychological torment of being drained, broken, and vulnerable? The story of Superman versus starvation doesn't start with food. It starts with the sun. And once the sun is gone, the Man of Steel faces something far deadlier than kryptonite. Hunger begins as a whisper. For a human, it's the rumble of an empty stomach, the weakness in your legs, the dry mouth that reminds you food is running out. But for Superman, hunger doesn't arrive as quickly. His body is a fortress, and his cells burn slower, longer, brighter. But when that fortress begins to crack, the effects are devastating. At first, it would be subtle. His powers would flicker. Heat vision sputtering instead of burning. Super strength feeling sluggish, like lifting mountains underwater. He'd still look like Superman, still stand tall, but inside, the reserves are dwindling. And then, his body would begin to betray him. The man who could once hear the cries of the world from galaxies away would suddenly feel silence. The super hearing fading. The X-ray vision darkening. Even his flight would falter, each takeoff draining more than it gives. Imagine the man of tomorrow dragging himself through the dirt, no longer gliding through the skies. But the physical pain is only half the story. Hunger breaks the mind before it breaks the body. Superman has always been seen as unshakable, a symbol who does not bend. But strip him of sunlight, starve him long enough, and that confidence turns to fear. He would start questioning himself. How much longer can I last? Will I still be alive tomorrow? Am I even Superman without the sun? It's this slow mental erosion that's the true battle. Because when you take away his powers, Clark Kent is not just fighting death, he's fighting despair. He has to relive every memory of those he couldn't save. Every failure. Every time he wasn't fast enough, strong enough. And in Starvation, those voices grow louder. Some stories hint at this fragile line. In Elseworlds tales, Superman has been trapped in space, cut off from light. In some versions, he survives for years living off stored solar energy. But he doesn't stay the same. His body shrinks, muscles wasting, skin paling. His eyes lose their fire. He looks less like a god, and more like a man who's lost too much. And yet, here's the paradox. Even in his weakest moment, even when starvation gnaws at him, Superman has something most beings don't: willpower. A willpower so immense that he has defied death itself. His Kryptonian cells may be starving, but his heart refuses to surrender. There's even a theory, one so chilling it almost feels like a curse. What if Superman could never truly die of starvation? What if his body, even without food or sunlight, keeps him alive in agony, forcing him to endure endless weakness without the release of death? His immortality turned into torment. A body that cannot quit, a soul that cannot rest. And this thought takes us to the breaking point. How long could Superman go before not just his body, but his spirit breaks? Because hunger does more than kill, it erodes hope. And hope has always been his greatest weapon. The Man of Steel could endure days, months, even years longer than any human. But the question isn't just can he survive. The question is, will he still want to? And if he falls into despair, if Superman, the eternal symbol of hope, loses faith in himself, what happens then? Does he fade quietly into the shadows of time? Or does something darker awaken inside him? A desperate hunger that could change him forever? Because when a god starves, he doesn't just die. He transforms. Starvation isn't always about the body giving out. Sometimes it's about what a soul chooses to endure. And for Superman, that choice is more terrifying than death itself. When a man who can outlast stars begins to starve, he's faced with three possible paths. None of them easy. None of them without cost. The first path is death. Yes, even Superman, without sunlight, without sustenance, could eventually reach a point where his cells burn through the last flicker of energy. He'd look at the Earth, or whatever world he's stranded on, and know his final breath is coming. Imagine that moment. The Man of Steel, the protector of billions, reduced to dust, not by kryptonite, not by cosmic gods, but by something as simple as hunger. It would be the most human death he could ever face. And in that moment, he'd finally become what he always wanted to be, just a man. But the second path is hope. Superman's story has always been about finding light in impossible darkness. Even if his body is failing, his spirit has a way of refusing surrender. Maybe he remembers the words of Jonathan Kent, reminding him that his gift isn't his powers, it's his heart. Maybe he hears Lois Lane's voice in his mind, giving him one more reason to fight. Hope might drive him to push past starvation, crawling through despair until he finally finds even the smallest spark of sunlight. One ray could reignite him, turn weakness back into godhood, and prove once again that Superman doesn't die easy. And yet, there is a third path. A path no one wants to imagine. Something else. What if hunger doesn't kill him? What if hope doesn't save him? What if starvation transforms him into something unrecognizable? Kryptonian biology isn't like human biology. His cells absorb energy in ways no human could survive. Desperation could trigger changes deep within his DNA. A feral Superman driven by raw hunger, not morality. His eyes dim with starvation, but glowing with instinct. No longer a savior. A predator. Picture it. A weakened Superman, stumbling through the universe, feeding not on food, but on energy itself. Desperate. Consuming life forces. Draining the very worlds he once swore to protect. A twisted version of the hero, born not from hate, but from hunger. He becomes the very thing he feared, an unstoppable force with no humanity left to hold it back. And here's the chilling truth. That version of Superman wouldn't be stopped by kryptonite, or by doomsday, or even by gods. Because he wouldn't care about anything but survival. The hunger would be endless. A curse without an end. So can Superman survive starvation? Yes. But survival might be the worst fate of all. For if death is mercy, and hope is salvation, then endless hunger is damnation. In the end, Superman's greatest strength isn't his powers. It's the fact that no matter how much he suffers, no matter how close he comes to despair, he still chooses to be Superman. And maybe, just maybe, that's how he truly defeats starvation. Not with sunlight, not with food, but with the one thing no force in the universe can take away. His will. Because as long as Superman believes in something greater than himself, he cannot truly die.